With collection of essays, it's kind of different to when you're writing a novel, because like when you're writing a novel, you have this idea, and then you have to basically like stretch out that entire idea and like fill it up. Whereas like even with collections of poetry, same as essays, it kind of comes together in pieces. I just enjoy writing literary essays, so I would be writing them and then maybe trying to get them published individually in literary journals. And then after maybe like 15 months to a year, I kind of had enough. I definitely had more than I needed for a book, so I was like, right, I have enough essays where we can like make a collection. And then it's more the process of like figuring out what ones fit together for like, maybe there's like an overarching theme of the book, and in my one there was like a brief inhalation. It's these moments that kind of catch you off guard and they're kind of like surprising and shocking. Yeah, it kind of just came together without like the intention of it being a book from the start, and then when you get enough work together, it was like, all right, we have enough here. It's kind of I suppose the comparison would be like, if you're working on a song, you have the idea for a song, but you mightn't necessarily have the whole concept for the album at the start until you start like putting stuff together. It's kind of the same with a collection of essays. I mean, there's a lot of themes in the book, a lot of things come up. Always mental health is kind of in throughout all my essays, like the mental health of like how I was feeling during certain experiences, and some of them are more like head on with mental health, but they all touch on them. I think masculinity is a big theme I'm writing about recently. And then just kind of moments. I'm really bad for something happening in my life, something good or bad, and just moving past it straight away and not really like sitting with it and like processing the emotion. I have been really bad for that in the past. So this book is kind of like choosing to stay in the moments and like feel them out. And because even in the past when I've released books, it's always been like, okay, that's released, what's next? Rather than actually like sitting with it and like experiencing the full like breadth of the emotions and like actually like savoring it and like enjoying it. So I think that's what this book is. It's like all these moments of like either funny stuff or scary stuff or like sad stuff happening, and rather than like skipping past them, actually like delving into them. Like for example, there's an essay in the book called A Snake Named Snake, and it's about my father bought me a snake when I was 11 because he thought I'd like it. And really the snake was like this symbol of our like connection, because like I wasn't the most like, and I'm not really the most like traditional man in that like my brother was into like doing stuff in the garden and fixing cars and fixing bikes and stuff, and I was kind of like, I want to go inside and read. And my dad was similar to my brother and is similar, so they connected way easier. So me and my dad didn't have this thing, so then the snake became the thing that was between us, and we had to like figure out how to take care of this thing no one wanted. It was bizarre. And then later I started playing basketball, and my dad loved that because it was sport and he could like understand that, and that's what connected us. So like it's kind of like, yeah, just delving into kind of things that seemed ordinary to me. Like for example, the snake story, I just thought that was normal until I told my friend about it, and they were like, that's the weirdest story ever. And I was like, oh, maybe I should write about this. So it's like, yeah, there's a lot going on in the book, but it's mental health, relationships, masculinity, and kind of like a lot of identity and like what makes us who we are, I suppose. I think this is true for all of them, and it's true for like why I started writing in the first place with my blog, Thoughts Too Big. I just want people to feel like they're not alone in what they're dealing with, because, you know, I suppose my career in this sense started because my best friend took his own life, and I had no idea he was struggling. So he obviously felt very alone. And if he could have just talked, and he probably felt like no one else could understand what he was going through. It's very common. And I felt like if he could have just talked to someone or several people, he would have found out that like a lot of people were struggling with the same things he was struggling with. Maybe not to the same severity, but we're all like worrying about the same things. So then when I started writing, I was like, right, like I'm not a qualified like counsellor. You know, there's not much I can do like professionally, but I can talk and I can write. So I was like, if I just write about all these experiences I'm having, then people can read them and be like, oh, that's happened to me, or I felt like that before, and that causes people to feel less isolated in how they're feeling. So that's basically what I'm trying to do with all of my writing, is like, here's a thing that happened. It might have happened to you. If it didn't, the next thing might have happened to you, and so on. Because like there's all these different situations and experiences, and it's just so people don't feel so alone. Because I think that's like, especially in the world we're in now, where like social media has made us like so isolated from each other, and like people are experiencing loneliness on like a massive scale. Like that community of emotion and experience like will bring real connection, as opposed to like, oh well, I follow them on Instagram. Like that's like a very like fake connection. But if you have this real like, we've experienced the same things, that definitely makes you feel less alone. Like for example, when I was going to college here, like I felt a lot better when I found out my classmates also hadn't studied. You know, there's that sense of like, oh well, if you haven't prepared then, and I haven't prepared, I don't feel as bad anymore because no one's prepared. It's that kind of feeling you're looking for. Like, so that's what I try to do with all the writing. Oh well, it's kind of like have you ever like looked back at texts you sent 10 years ago and like cringe, and you're like, oh, I can't believe I said that. It's kind of the same feeling. Like you just naturally progress and change as a writer as time goes on. And like most writers will say this, like their early work, like they'll just be like, oh, I can't read that. I would have done it differently, and I would have done a lot of stuff differently if I was writing it now. But that's part of the journey of it, where you just evolve as a writer. So, but I think, to be specific, my first book, the Book of Revelations, was far more like bizarre. Like I was writing about really weird things that would never happen. Obviously, it was fiction. And it was very like kind of like Kafkaesque and just like really bizarre things. And I suppose things now are more grounded in reality. Whereas like, obviously with essays, like those things did happen. But even when I'm writing fiction now, it's stories that could happen. Whereas like, you know, there's a story somewhere about like a pigeon and magpie civil war in the Peace Park on Grand Parade, like weird stuff like that. And I was just having fun, and it was just pure creativity, and I loved it. And I loved that I wrote those stories. But as time moved on, and as I've matured as a person, my writing's just matured as well.